I'm sitting at my own kitchen table drinking coffee from the blue ceramic mug. My husband bought me 20 years ago at that little shop in Vermont when Amanda says it. And her voice is calm and rehearsed and final in a way that tells me she's practiced this speech multiple times before coming here. I've decided to rent out your house, Mom. You'll move in with us and live in the basement like a guest. Luke nods beside her, like this has already been discussed and settled and voted on without me ever getting a ballot. His arms crossed over his chest, in that way men do when they want to look supportive, but really they just don't want to get involved in conflict. The words hit me in the chest like a physical blow before my brain can fully process what she's actually saying. My house, the one I've lived in for 32 years, the one my late husband and I bought when Amanda was just a baby with pink cheeks and tiny fists. Being rented out to complete strangers while I get shipped off to their basement like old furniture they can't quite throw away but don't want visible anymore. I feel the humiliation hit me first, hot and sharp and spreading through my chest, before the anger has time to catch up and make itself known. Amanda slides a printed document across my kitchen table, the paper crisp and official looking with neat margins. And I can see dates and rental price estimates and something labeled "Move-in Rules for Mom" typed out in bullet points with numbers. Let me tell you who I am so you understand why this moment feels like the earth opening up beneath my feet and swallowing everything I thought was solid. My name is Evelyn Parker. I'm 58 years old, and I've been a widow for 6 years now, since my husband Thomas passed from a massive heart attack that took him too young and too fast on a Tuesday morning in our bedroom. I raised my daughter Amanda in this house, packed her lunches at this counter every school morning, helped her with math homework at this table when she struggled with fractions, watched her grow from a baby to a woman in these rooms that are filled with more memories than furniture could ever hold. The house is paid off completely. Every single mortgage payment made on time for 3 decades, until the bank sent that final letter saying, "Congratulations, you own it free and clear, and here's your deed." Amanda speaks to me slowly like I'm made of glass that might shatter if she raises her voice or uses complicated words. Using that patient tone, people reserve for small children or very elderly people who can't understand basic concepts anymore. Luke won't meet my eyes at all during this conversation, just stares at a spot on the wall behind my head like there's something absolutely fascinating about the beige paint we chose together 5 years ago. Amanda sighs like she's already exhausted by this conversation we've barely started having. "You should be grateful we're letting you stay with us, Mom. A lot of families wouldn't do this much." She adds without even pausing for breath, her voice matter of fact. "You don't need a whole house anymore anyway. It's too much for one person." Amanda describes the basement bedroom like she's offering me some kind of generous gift instead of a prison cell, talking enthusiastically about the small bedroom they've already picked out for me in the corner near the furnace and how there's no private entrance, but that's completely fine because I won't need one anyway, since I'll be part of their household. She mentions shared storage space with their holiday decorations and Luke's old golf clubs that he never uses, and the kids' outgrown toys. And she says the words, "no locks for safety reasons." Like that's somehow looking out for my well-being, instead of controlling my movements and privacy. There's a curfew implied in the way she talks about quiet hours after 9, and not disturbing the children after their bedtime, and being respectful of their family schedule and routines, rules and restrictions for a space that would supposedly be my home. The basement has low ceilings that make tall people duck, and small windows that sit right at ground level showing mostly dirt and grass. And I've been down there exactly twice in the past year for birthday parties where the kids played with balloons and screamed. I sit very still at my table with my hands wrapped around my cooling coffee and realize with perfect crystal clarity that they don't see me as family anymore. They see me as a burden they're managing as efficiently as possible. Luke shifts uncomfortably in his chair and says in that fake casual voice, "It's just temporary anyway, you know? Until you adjust to the change and get used to living with less space and responsibility." They explain their logic like they're presenting a quarterly business proposal to shareholders. Amanda, ticking off points on her perfectly manicured fingers about rising costs, and the kids needing new laptops for school, and soccer fees that keep increasing, and how my house is apparently sitting here unused and wasted like I'm not living in it every single day of my life. She talks about property taxes and utility bills and maintenance costs and lawn care expenses as if I haven't been paying all of those myself for years without ever asking them for a single dollar of help or support. Luke jumps in to back her up, saying this arrangement just makes sense financially for everyone involved, and it's really the smart move. Though I notice he specifically means financially for them, since I'm the one losing my home and my independence and my dignity. Amanda's voice gets that particular edge. It gets when she thinks she's being perfectly reasonable and logical and can't understand why anyone would possibly disagree with her obvious wisdom. Explaining in detail how much rental income my 3-bedroom house could generate per month in this market and how that money could really help their family budget. I set down my coffee mug very carefully on the table so I don't throw it. And I ask one simple, direct question. Since when does my home belong to you to make decisions about? Amanda answers without even blinking or showing a hint of doubt, her face completely serious and certain. It will belong to us eventually when you pass, Mom. We're just planning ahead and being smart about resources. Amanda reveals something that makes my blood run absolutely cold in my veins. She already spoke to a property management company called Riverside Rentals last week, already discussed rental rates and tenant screening procedures and lease terms and security deposits without ever mentioning any of it to me even once. She's scheduled a professional photographer to come take listing photos this coming Friday afternoon at 2 o'clock. And she's already drafted advertising copy describing my home's features and selling points like it's already hers to market and sell to strangers. My house has been discussed and planned and commodified in meetings and phone calls I didn't know were happening, decisions made about my entire life and my future without my input or consent, or even basic notification that these conversations were occurring. She pulls out her phone with its pink glittery case and shows me a draft listing with professional marketing language about charming 3-bedroom home in established neighborhood, and original hardwood floors, and available for immediate occupancy. My chest tightens with pressure, but it's not shock or surprise anymore. It's clarity, sharp and cold and perfectly focused like ice forming. Amanda looks at me expectantly with her eyebrows raised, waiting for me to thank her profusely or agree enthusiastically, or at least acknowledge her initiative and forward thinking and organizational skills. I just assumed you'd agree once you saw how much sense this makes from a practical standpoint. I start noticing things I should have seen building for months or maybe even years if I'm being honest with myself. They talk around me instead of to me, discussing my situation and my future and my needs and my limitations without actually asking me directly what I want or how I feel about anything. Luke makes casual jokes about empty nest real estate opportunities and downsizing trends, laughing like it's genuinely funny instead of cruel and dismissive of my entire life. Amanda checks her watch repeatedly while I'm mid-sentence trying to express my concerns, scrolling through her phone notifications when I try to explain my feelings. Cutting me off to repeat points she's already made, as if I'm too slow or too confused to have understood them the first time. They've stopped pretending to care what I think about my own life. Stopped even maintaining the polite fiction that this is a conversation or a discussion, instead of an announcement of decisions they've already finalized without me. I realize, with sinking certainty, that this didn't start today at my kitchen table. It's been building gradually for years while I was too trusting or too tired or too grief-stricken over losing Thomas to notice the shift. Amanda pulls out a small desk calendar with flowers on it and marks a date 6 weeks from today with a thick red pen, circling it twice. That's your move-out date, Mom. That gives you plenty of time to pack up and sort through things and donate what won't fit. Amanda shows up at my front door the very next weekend, with cardboard moving boxes already assembled and flattened, stacking them against my living room wall, like she's being helpful and supportive, instead of presumptuous and controlling. She offers cheerfully to help me get started packing this weekend, suggesting brightly that I should begin with the basement and attic, since those areas have the most clutter and old junk that I probably don't even remember owning. Luke wanders through my house with his hands in his pockets, making casual comments about which furniture pieces might fit in their basement space, and which ones I should probably just donate to Goodwill, because there simply won't be room for everything. They talk about my possessions and my belongings like they're already making final decisions, pointing at my husband's oak bookshelf that he built himself, and my grandmother's antique dresser, and the comfortable couch where I read mystery novels every evening. I say absolutely nothing in response, just watch them move through my personal space, touching my things, and they mistake my silence for surrender and agreement and passive acceptance of their plan. Amanda pats my shoulder in that condescending way before they leave for dinner. I'll bring the actual lease papers next weekend so you can review all the terms before we officially list the property on the market. That night, I can't sleep at all, so I walk through my house in the darkness at 3 a.m, running my hands along walls my husband Thomas painted himself that last summer before he died, encounters where I've made literally thousands of meals over 3 decades. Every single room holds memories that Amanda seems to think are disposable and meaningless. The corner of the nursery where we brought her home from, the hospital wrapped in a yellow blanket, the window where I watched anxiously for her school bus every afternoon, the front porch where we took those prom photos with her in that blue dress. I end up in my home office, sitting at the desk that used to be Thomas's workspace, and I remember the envelope in the back of the bottom drawer behind old tax returns. I pull it out carefully and hold it in my hands, the paper slightly yellowed at the edges, but the wax seal still completely intact, and I realize I've never actually needed to open it or use it before this moment in my life. My hands are perfectly steady when I set it on the desk in the lamplight, and I realize something important. I don't need to panic or argue or convince anyone of anything right now. I decide very deliberately and strategically not to show Amanda this envelope yet. Timing matters more than immediate truth sometimes, and patience can be its own kind of power. I call an attorney first thing Monday morning at 9 o'clock, not my daughter, and I make an appointment with someone named Helen Moore, whose law office is downtown in one of those beautiful old brick buildings with high ceilings and crown molding. She's probably 60 years old herself, with gray hair pulled back neatly in a bun, reading glasses on a beaded chain around her neck, and her voice is calm and precise and completely professional when she asks me to explain my situation in detail. I bring documents with me in a folder, the house deed with my name on it, my husband's death certificate from 6 years ago, bank statements showing I pay all my own bills on time every month, the printed rental plan Amanda gave me with all those rules. Helen reviews everything methodically and carefully, making notes in small, neat handwriting, asking specific questions about exact timeline and the precise phrases Amanda used during our conversations. She looks up at me over her reading glasses with sharp, intelligent eyes and says something that makes me sit straighter in the leather chair. "Mrs. Parker, you're not powerless in this situation at all. You're just quiet, which people often mistake for weakness." She asks one question that changes the entire way I'm thinking about everything. "Has your daughter actually seen your current will and the specific provisions it contains?" I explain carefully that the will was prepared 6 years ago, right after my husband Thomas died suddenly, when everything felt urgent and uncertain and terrifying, and I wanted to make absolutely sure things were clear and legal and protected for the future. My attorney back then, a kind man named Richard who's since retired, helped me set it up properly with witnesses and notarization and all the formal legal requirements that make documents binding. I had it updated and revised just 8 months ago with Helen's predecessor at this same law firm, a woman named Patricia who asked excellent questions and we added specific protective clauses about the house and about coercion and about protecting myself from exactly this kind of family pressure and manipulation. The will is stored safely in a safe deposit box at First National Bank downtown in the vault, with official copies here in Helen's office files and one sealed copy in my home desk drawer. Helen's mouth curves into a small professional smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes. Good. Very good, actually. Timing is going to matter quite a bit in how this situation unfolds over the next few weeks. She advises me thoughtfully to let Amanda continue with her plans for now without interference, to document everything that happens, but not to confront or reveal what I know. Let her show you exactly who she is when she thinks she has power, Helen says, quietly and seriously. Amanda's whole approach and demeanor suddenly shifts completely the following week, her voice going soft and sweet like honey poured over something bitter. Offering to decorate the basement bedroom really nicely for me with new curtains from Target and a comfortable reading chair she saw on sale. She brings actual paint samples in soft colors and fabric swatches in various patterns, talking enthusiastically about creating a cozy personal space that will feel like my own, even though we both know perfectly well it won't have a lock on the door or any real privacy. Luke suggests installing security cameras in the basement for my safety and protection, so they can check on me remotely if I fall or need help or have some kind of emergency. And the way he says it makes it absolutely clear the cameras are about monitoring and surveillance, not protecting my well-being. They're performing kindness now, like actors in a play, putting on an elaborate show of caring and concern that feels completely rehearsed and hollow and false. Their sudden niceness and consideration feels practiced and strategic and fake, like they're reading from a script someone told them would work effectively on stubborn elderly parents who won't cooperate. Amanda sits down at my kitchen table again with her laptop and a kind smile and asks very sweetly if I could gather my financial documents for her to review: bank statements, investment accounts, insurance policies, social security information, just so she can help me organize everything better and more efficiently. I refuse politely but firmly to hand over my financial documents and private information, keeping my voice pleasant but absolutely unmovable when I tell Amanda that my finances are personal and private and properly managed already. Her entire demeanor shifts in an instant, like a light switch being flipped, the sweetness and patience dropping away completely, like a mask she's tired of wearing and maintaining. Her tone goes sharp and irritated and cold, her words clipped and harsh. And I can see Luke physically tense up beside her, like he knows this version of his wife well and fears it. She tells me I'm being unnecessarily difficult and unreasonable, that I'm making this whole transition harder than it needs to be for everyone involved, that she's only trying to help me and support me, and I'm throwing it back in her face with suspicion and stubbornness and ingratitude. I stay absolutely calm and simply repeat clearly that my financial documents are my own business and will remain private. Amanda stands up fast enough that her chair scrapes loud and harsh against my kitchen floor tiles, the sound like nails on a chalkboard. Fine, Mom. If you won't cooperate and help us help you properly, then we may just have to make necessary decisions without your input or approval. At Sunday dinner at Amanda's house with Luke's parents and Amanda's younger sister and her husband, my daughter makes pointed jokes about me finally downsizing and learning to live with less space and being supervised properly in my old age so nothing bad happens. She laughs while she says it, performing humor for her audience, and everyone around the crowded table laughs too, but the sound is awkward and uncertain and uncomfortable, like they're not sure if they should join in or stay quiet. She talks about me like I'm not sitting right there 3 feet away, discussing my supposed inability to maintain a whole house properly, and my growing need for family oversight and structure, and how much better I'll do with support and supervision. Luke's mother asks gentle, careful questions, and Amanda answers them like she's explaining a charitable project she's undertaking out of pure goodness. I smile pleasantly and say absolutely nothing at all. Just eat my pot roast and mashed potatoes and watch my daughter perform her concerned caregiver role. Amanda taps her wine glass with her fork to get everyone's attention at the table and makes a cheerful announcement with a big smile. The rental listing for Mom's house goes live online next week. We're all really excited about this new chapter and fresh start. Amanda shows up at my house unannounced on Wednesday afternoon with her laptop tucked under her arm and makes me sit down at the kitchen table to review the draft listing she's created. Complete with professional photos she apparently hired someone named Brad to take while I was at my weekly book club meeting last Thursday afternoon. The pictures show my living room with Thomas's favorite chair, and my kitchen with the blue curtains I made, and my bedrooms with my personal belongings visible, my private spaces displayed publicly for complete strangers to judge and evaluate and critique. She's written detailed descriptions about updated kitchen appliances and original hardwood floors and a spacious backyard with mature trees, selling my home's features and benefits like she has any legal right to market my property to potential tenants. I look at the photos of my bedroom, my actual bedroom where I sleep every night, posted online for rental advertising purposes, and I ask very calmly and quietly, who gave you permission to hire photographers and enter my house and take pictures inside my private home? Amanda doesn't even pause or hesitate, doesn't show a single hint of doubt or shame or recognition that she's done anything wrong. I'm your daughter, Mom. I don't need permission to help you. Helen sends a formal cease and desist letter to Amanda on official law firm letterhead with the firm name embossed at the top, requesting firmly that she immediately stop all actions regarding my property, including photography, listing preparation, tenant solicitation, property marketing, and any representations to third parties that she has authority over my home or decisions. The letter is professional and clear and legally precise in its language, outlining exactly which specific actions constitute interference with my property rights and potential legal violations. Amanda receives it by certified mail on a Tuesday morning and calls me within an hour, her voice rising to an actual shout that I can hear even when I hold the phone away from my ear to protect my hearing. She calls me ungrateful and selfish after everything she's trying to do for me, accuses me of not thinking about her family's needs and financial pressures, calls me dramatic for involving lawyers in what should be simple family business. I listen quietly to her yell and rage until she finally runs out of steam and breath. Then I say calmly that I'm simply protecting what's legally mine. Amanda's voice goes cold and threatening in a way that makes my skin prickle. Fine, Mom. If that's how you want to play this game, don't be surprised when I take control another way. There are options you haven't considered. Luke shows up at my house alone 2 days later without Amanda knowing, arriving just before dinner. And he corners me in my kitchen with his voice low and urgent and almost pleading. He tells me I should just sign things over peacefully to make everyone's life easier and avoid conflict. That fighting Amanda on this will only make me miserable and isolated and cut off from family. He explains that they've already planned entire finances around the rental income from my house, already committed to expenses and purchases based on money they expected to receive. Already told the kids about improvements and vacations they'd make with the extra monthly cash flow. His words reveal the truth I suspected. This was never about helping me or protecting my well-being or ensuring I'm cared for. It was always about their budget and their wants, and their assumption that my property was theirs to use. I realize with absolute certainty that Luke isn't some neutral party caught uncomfortably in the middle. He's completely complicit in this entire plan, maybe even helped design and strategize it. He leans against my counter like he owns the place and adds seriously, "We already planned our whole financial strategy for the next 5 years around this rental income, Evelyn. It's honestly too late to back out now without major consequences." Amanda insists repeatedly that I need to start sleeping at their house immediately to begin the transition period properly, telling me the basement bedroom is all ready and waiting, with fresh sheets and towels, and my clothes should be moved over this coming weekend. She wants me physically out of my house and under her roof, where she can control my comings and goings, where I'll be completely dependent on her for rides and meals and access to my own belongings and money. She frames it as helping me adjust gradually instead of one traumatic moving day, but I can hear the control and manipulation underneath every single carefully chosen word she uses. I refuse directly and clearly, telling her I'm staying in my own home where I belong, and her face flushes dark with anger and frustration. She actually points her finger at me like I'm a misbehaving child who won't follow simple instructions. Then don't be surprised by what happens next, Mom. You're forcing my hand here, and you'll have to live with the consequences of being stubborn. The pressure campaign intensifies dramatically as Amanda calls my sister Catherine and my neighbors the Robinsons and people from my church, including Pastor Williams, telling all of them I'm confused and resistant to necessary changes and possibly not capable of making good decisions anymore at my age. She paints a detailed picture of me as elderly and declining mentally and stubborn, someone who desperately needs family intervention for my own safety and welfare and protection. I start getting concerned phone calls from friends asking if I'm okay, if I need help, if Amanda's stories about my confusion and memory problems are actually true. The whispers follow me everywhere at the grocery store and the library and the post office, people looking at me with pity, like I'm some tragic figure losing my grip on reality and independence. I let the false narrative run without fighting it publicly or defending myself, instead documenting every conversation and every lie carefully in a spiral notebook Helen told me to keep. Amanda calls Thursday evening and says we need to have a final family meeting to resolve this situation once and for all. Sunday at 2 p.m. at your house, Mom. Be ready to make some actual decisions. Sunday arrives and they show up exactly at 2 right on time. Amanda carrying an expensive leather folder and Luke carrying an expression on his face like he'd rather be absolutely anywhere else in the world. They sit me down at my own kitchen table again, the same exact place where this whole nightmare started weeks ago, and Amanda pulls out papers that look official and binding with legal language and signature lines. She speaks slowly and carefully, like she's explaining something complex to someone very simple, using small words and patient tones that make me feel like a child. Luke sits rigidly with his arms folded across his chest, his presence clearly meant to intimidate or, at least, to show a unified front against me. Amanda slides the papers toward me across the table, pointing with her pink fingernail at signature lines marked with bright yellow sticky tabs. I look at both of them for a long silent moment, then I speak calmly and clearly. Before I even consider signing anything at all, I need you to read one document first that I have. I stand up slowly and retrieve the envelope from my desk drawer where it's been waiting, the one I've been keeping safe and sealed for exactly this moment, and I place it on the table between us. Amanda opens the envelope with hands that shake slightly, probably from irritation and impatience more than nervousness, and she pulls out my will that was properly executed and legally binding and updated just 8 months ago with Patricia's help. She reads it out loud because I ask her to, her voice getting progressively quieter and more uncertain as she goes through the relevant sections line by line. The will states clearly and explicitly that my house remains mine for the duration of my natural life, that it cannot be rented or sold or transferred without my explicit written consent, given freely and without coercion or pressure. There's a specific protective clause about inheritance. Any heir who attempts to coerce, manipulate, threaten, or force me to relinquish control of my property will automatically forfeit any future inheritance from my estate entirely. The silence in my kitchen is absolute and heavy and crushing, like all the air has been sucked out. Amanda's face has gone completely white like paper, her mouth hanging open slightly as she rereads the section about forfeiture twice. She whispers hoarsely, "That can't be legally enforceable. You can't just write people out because they disagree." Helen's calm, professional voice comes from my doorway, where she's been standing quietly since arriving 5 minutes before Amanda and Luke. "It's absolutely enforceable, Miss Parker. Your mother had excellent legal counsel when this was drafted." Helen steps fully into my kitchen and explains in her calm, measured attorney voice exactly what Amanda's actions over the past 6 weeks have legally triggered and what consequences now apply. The photography without permission, the rental listings created without authorization, The pressure campaign to force relocation, the threats and ultimatums, the attempts to control my finances, all of it documented and witnessed and legally significant in court. She explains clearly that the forfeiture clause isn't punishment or revenge. It's consequence and protection. A safeguard I put in place specifically because I worried this exact scenario might eventually happen with family. Amanda's face cycles rapidly through emotions: shock, anger, denial, panic, desperation, while Luke just sits completely frozen like he's trying to become invisible or disappear into the chair. Amanda's voice comes out strangled and desperate. "You're saying I lose my entire inheritance because I tried to help you and plan responsibly for your future?" Helen corrects her gently but firmly. "You lose your future inheritance because you tried to take control of property that isn't yours through documented coercion and manipulation tactics." Luke finally speaks, his voice barely above a whisper, and shaking. "What does this mean for us financially going forward?" I don't yell or gloat or throw their terrible behavior back in their faces with anger and bitterness, even though part of me desperately wants to, after everything they've put me through. Instead, I explain very clearly and calmly that their choices and actions led directly to these legal consequences, that I didn't do this to them. They did it to themselves through their own decisions. The will's forfeiture clause activates automatically because of their documented actions, not because of my cruelty or revenge or spite toward my own daughter. I tell Amanda honestly I never wanted it to come to this confrontation, that I genuinely hoped she'd respect my autonomy and my property rights and my basic dignity. But she showed me exactly who she is when she thought she had power over me. Helen adds professionally that the clause can potentially be contested in probate court, but given the extensive documentation of coercion attempts, any reasonable judge would almost certainly uphold it completely. I stay seated calmly at my table, while Amanda processes what she's just lost through her own actions. Amanda breaks down, but it's angry crying, not remorseful. Tears of pure rage that her carefully planned scheme failed and her expected inheritance evaporated and her rental income fantasy disappeared. "You did this on purpose," she spits at me venomously. "You set a trap for me." I shake my head slowly. "No, honey, I set a boundary to protect myself. You're the one who chose to try to cross it." Amanda suddenly wants to talk things through like reasonable people just hours after the confrontation, her voice shifting back to artificial sweetness and persuasion like flipping a switch, suggesting we forget about all this tension and conflict and start over fresh with better communication. She offers to cancel the rental listing immediately and apologize for moving too fast and give me all the space I need to make my own decisions in my own time without pressure. Luke won't look at anyone, just stares intensely at his hands folded on the table, while his wife tries desperately to salvage something from the wreckage she created. But I can see clearly this isn't real remorse or genuine regret, it's just strategy, another calculated attempt to manipulate me into undoing the legal consequences they earned through their own choices. I stand up from my table and speak clearly, so there's no misunderstanding. I'm staying in my home. That's not changing now or ever for any reason. I add something I've been thinking about carefully for days. And I'm permanently changing how we interact going forward. No more unannounced visits, no more discussions about my finances, no more plans made about me without me present. The months that follow are quiet and tense and uncomfortable for everyone involved. Amanda and Luke struggle financially without the rental income they'd counted on and budgeted around, and spent before receiving, having to cancel expensive plans and cut back on expenses, and explain to the kids why certain promises can't be kept anymore. I hear through my sister Catherine that they're stressed and fighting constantly about money and blaming me bitterly for their financial problems, completely unable to accept that they created this entire situation themselves through greed. I stayed peacefully in my house and slowly began making improvements I'd put off for years. New granite kitchen counters, fresh paint in the bedrooms in colors I actually like, a beautiful raised garden area in the backyard with vegetables. I spend my money on my space, making it more mine than it's ever been, claiming my life back piece by piece. I plant yellow rose bushes in my front yard and have coffee on my porch every single morning, visible and present and undeniably staying put. 8 months after our kitchen confrontation, Amanda calls hesitantly and asks if we can meet for coffee somewhere neutral. Her voice sounds smaller somehow, tired and uncertain and lacking its usual confidence. I meet Amanda at the coffee shop on Main Street downtown, neutral territory where neither of us has advantage or control. She looks noticeably older than she did just 8 months ago. Stress showing clearly in new lines around her eyes, and tension visible in her shoulders and the way she holds herself. She tries to apologize, but the words are careful and partial and incomplete, acknowledging she moved too fast, but still not that she tried to steal my home and autonomy and entire life. She asks hopefully if there's any way to fix the inheritance situation, if I'd consider reversing the forfeiture clause if she proves over time she's changed and learned. I listen to all of it quietly, and then I tell her the honest truth. I'll offer her emotional support if she genuinely wants to rebuild our relationship slowly, but I absolutely won't offer control or money or access to my property or my decisions ever again. I explain that trust has to be earned back slowly over years, that our relationship going forward will have very clear boundaries she needs to respect consistently. Amanda cries a little, real tears this time instead of angry manipulative ones. I just want my mom back. I miss you. I reach across the small table and hold her hand gently. I'm right here. I've always been here in the same place. You're the one who tried to move me into a basement. We finish our coffee and part ways without resolving everything perfectly, because some things take time to heal if they heal at all. I drive back to my house, in my name alone, under my complete control, and I sit on my front porch watching the sunset paint my street in shades of gold and pink and orange. I didn't win by taking anything from my daughter or destroying her out of spite or revenge. I won by refusing to be moved into a basement of my own life, by standing firm on the ground I'd earned, by protecting what was mine when everyone assumed I was too weak or too kind or too old to fight back effectively.